Hey everyone, Tim here from SnapAttack. Let's dig into this week's Threat Snapshot. So we're going to be talking about malvertising, and what that is where threat actors, usually criminal organizations, are going to sponsor malicious advertisements, for example on Google, and the user is going to be coming to Google looking for something specific. Usually a lot of times what we've been seeing lately is looking to install software. So it might be something like Adobe or AnyDesk or Notepad++ or TeamViewer or 7-Zip, files that you likely already have installed on your computer. And you're going to go and type that software's name in, maybe a word like install or download, and the criminal organization is going to have sponsored AdWord links there, which are going to appear at the top of the search. And that's going to take them to a malicious site where that download is going to present, again, their malicious software. So let's take a look at this right now with AnyDesk. So I'm going to use some spaces here just because they're a little bit cheaper for advertisers, but it doesn't necessarily have to be the case. So I'm going to say AnyDesk down and load. And we're going to see here kind of where that problem lies is. I know what I'm looking for, AnyDesk, but I've got almost a full page of ads here before I get down to the legitimate website here for AnyDesk. And this can be a problem because if you see the first software here being something that looks like AnyDesk, you're likely going to click on it if you're not paying attention. Now this was one of those that we saw earlier today. This is AnyDeskCloud.online. It looks like an AnyDesk website. It's talking about my remote desktop software for Windows. Again, first glance, I would say this is legit. I'm going to go ahead and click that download now, and it is going to actually download that file. Funny enough, I wasn't getting that Chrome blocking that MSI file as dangerous earlier, but this is totally something that very easily you could download and then carry through that attack. And again, this is something that we've been seeing as well as other vendors. Trend Micro was talking about this earlier this week. Actually, this is from earlier in December, but we've been seeing more of this too from other sources earlier this week. This is the IcedID botnet group using the pay-per-click to distribute the malware. We're going to have a sample that looks very much like this here. Again, I mentioned lots of the different vendors that they're going to try and have malicious downloads for. And that initial infection chain, you're going to have that installer, usually an executable or an MSI file. It's going to launch run DLL 32. It's going to reach out to their command and control server, and through that malicious chain can install other things, including up into something like Cobalt Strike if they want to have interactive operations on that system. So you can see here that you can very similar pattern. This is where it looks like it's AnyDesk and you think you're downloading the right file, but then it's going to do some malicious things here. So good piece of threat intelligence if you want to take a look. They have some IOCs and stuff which we'll talk about later. Again, other threat actors seeing this. Again, this week we've got Unit 42. They've talked about multiple groups here. This one is talking about Redline Info Stealer and some others masquerading as a fake 7-zip file to download. SANS, again, also this week, Google malicious ads to fake Notepad++ downloads to the Aurora information stealer malware. Lots of reports of this going on. Again, you can see where those sponsored ads can really kind of be very misleading to users. So let's actually analyze a couple of these in SnapAttack. So we had a lot of luck with the AnyDesk installer, specifically too because that's what the Trend Micro was looking at. So this one is going to emulate that kill chain very closely. We're going to see here that we have that that malicious website. If we play the video, we have that malicious ad. We're going to go to the website. We're going to actually see that installer. We're going to click download, and we'll see kind of what happens here. So there's some stuff that goes on in the background that's going to install that IcedID malware. One of the obvious ways as a user to know that this actually didn't work is a lot of times these installers don't actually install the software that you're doing. I have seen and was analyzing a sample of AnyDesk that was significantly larger and did install that along the way, but this is a really small file, and chances are most users, especially the unsuspecting ones, they're just going to go and try and find another installer if that doesn't work, and we'll forget about the fact that this one didn't download. So as we can see, there's definitely our malicious actions here and lots of detections along the way. We'll talk about detections in a minute, but I do want to talk through that process graph and kill chain here. So we do see Explorer.exe is going to launch MSI exec. That's where the user goes to that downloads folder and double clicks that exe. MSI exec is going to be what's going to install that MSI file. And then everything else is going to be under this new MSI exec chain. So we're going to see MSI exec is going to launch run DLL32. That's already kind of suspicious. We can also see here that it's not really launching a traditional DLL. You see that has the file of a temp file, and it's got this very interesting function name that it's calling in the DLL. So it's this zzz invoke manage custom action out of proc, and some other arguments too here that is going to be used by that malware, which is going to again beacon out and grab additional payloads. So this alone is a very suspicious chain. You can definitely hunt for that sort of activity. So this one, again, we were saying is going to be installing that IcedID malware. Through our looking, trying to find others, we found TA505, also known as Fin11, tracked by other actors, Temp Warlock, UNC 902. But this threat actor, being again another financially motivated actor, they're going to install some of their own malware here too. So we can take a look at a similar path where we're searching for AnyDesk. This is that AnyDesk online, this one with an SCK, so through a typo, going to land you here to a website. You can click that, download now. It's going to have that installer here, and we can, launch that, and we'll see a little different chain of events on the process graph, but definitely worth looking at. Pivoting over here, again, we have Explorer is going to launch MSI exec. That's that user's double click. We're going to see MSI exec launch that, again, temp file. This here also is very interesting. There's that base64 encoded string, which is PowerShell. We'll decode that in a minute to see what exactly that's doing. But that PowerShell.exe is going to launch, again, a run DLL32, which that DLL was, again, downloaded from the internet, and that's going to spawn. So we can take a look here, and again, this is how we have that attribution of, Fin11 or TA505 is, through this decoded, command, we're going to see it's going to reach out to download-cdn.com. That pattern and those imitating CDNs is quite commonly used by this threat actor, and this domain has been attributed to them. So it's going to download a file. You can see here that DLL that's going to be downloaded, and then that argument to run DLL32 with that downloaded file, and that DLL regserve command argument. So lots of different activity here that we can do. One of the things and features that I want to show off in SnapAttack is IOCs. So for these sort of things, it's very easy to take a look at known infrastructure, known bad hashes. You could certainly do searches for these. I'm just going to kind of take this little section here. This is again from that Trend Micro report. I can copy those over here, and in SnapAttack for our subscribers, you can go over to Intelligence and you can do IOC Hunter, and you can quickly paste in IOCs here. This is going to extract the IOCs from the text. In this case, it's going to find those domains and IP addresses. Even if they have been defanged, you can see here that this example has those brackets around the periods. We do lookups against the MISP warning list, so we'll let you know if we see anything unique, if these are commonly used domains, if they belong to VPNs, if they're something that's whitelisted or known good. And then we can take that and we can do a one-click search in our integration. So in this case, I can search our SnapAttack Splunk here to see if there's any of these IPs or domains. Nothing from this set in particular in our repository, but there certainly are others that we have. Again, just giving you an extra way to detect this sort of activity. Because attackers and IOCs change very quickly, again, file hashes is probably not a long-standing way to do this because there's so many different variations here. Behavioral techniques are definitely the way to look at this. So some of the detections that we have here, again, these are all validated, high confidence. You can deploy, pretty confidently into your systems. One is going to be looking for particularly unsigned DLLs, or again, loading DLLs from those non-standard directories. Also paying attention to what process is launching those DLLs. So when you see msiexec.exe, loading that DLL. That's another way to look at, for something suspicious. So, this detection here, we can see, again, that run DLL is loading this, this file, this file, this MSI is loading that. And you can see, again, some of those kind of weirdness. There's other examples of this pattern here too. So these are all different versions. This is RedServe 32 launching those DLLs. So definitely one technique. Again, kind of more along those lines. There's some different variations here. So TA505 does like to use that DLL RedServe argument here. You can also see that they're using the program data folder, kind of like a temp directory, and the DLL that they're running. Again, run DLL doesn't really care what the file name is, so they're using a .dat file. I've seen .temp files. Really, a lot of times the malware authors are going to use something other than DLL because people associate a DLL file with an executable. And if I just so happen to stumble upon a .dat file or temp file in the folder, I'm probably not going to assume it's executable just based on the file name alone. So these are certainly ways that you can, hunt. You can, deploy these in your network. A couple more around IcedID, or IcedID in particular. So they also use this init param with rundll32, something that we've seen quite commonly. Another one here, I did call out that ZZZ invoke managed custom action. So we do have hits from here in SnapAttack. We do have some too in Splunk's attack range, that data set. We can see this one was related to TrickBot, Fin7. More malware from IcedID. So these definitely are unique strings that you can hunt for. Have seen those dating back to, I think, as early as 2019. So this is a pretty high confidence one that you can use almost out of the box. Another way that we can look at this is what kind of ad hosting websites we're using and what the file names are. So again, these are going to be masquerading as legitimate installers. So, looking for, Notepad++ or 7-zip or other EXEs or MSIs, and then looking for activity if those are going to be spawning rundll32 or CMD or PowerShell, C-script, W-script, WMI. Any sort of weird behavior that an installer typically isn't going to do. These definitely, provide some additional ways that we can, detect this. So this was another one we were looking at, Google Ads, malware around Notepad++, malicious installer. So that's another high confidence detection here. So that's our snapshot for this week. It's a weekly series. Like, subscribe, and we'll see you next time.